Hey guys, Alec, Peirce, Tech Tips once again. Here at Dan's Dive Shop, by the way, in St. Catharines, Ontario. If you get a chance up on this area, make sure you drop in. And here I am with my professional screwdriver, Phillips. And what I want to do with for a few minutes is that ongoing controversy about balanced and unbalanced regulators. Now, what you ultimately end up using depends on a lot of things. If you're a very casual diver, you go down to the Keys, you dive at 15, 20 feet on a nice warm reef 2 or 3 times a year, and you dive at a cottage in 25, maybe 30 feet of water once or twice a year. That's it. Then this is not really a big issue for you. You're just fine with any regulator that the local dive store suggests. If it's a standard regulator, meaning it's not balanced, that'll work just fine for you. If, however, you're a more enthusiastic diver, you do a lot of diving, a lot of dive trips, and maybe you go deeper. You get deeper than 50 or 60 feet. Maybe you dive in colder water for a variety of reasons. Anything that will sort of indicate that your diving is a little bit beyond a very basic recreational, having fun only diver, then probably your local dive store will advise you probably will have a balanced regulator. In fact, all regulators beyond the very basic regulator available from manufacturers, almost all of them are balanced. So if there's 6 or 7 or 8 regulators in a manufacturer's line, usually the very first one, their basic sport, whatever they call it, regulator, may not be balanced. All the rest will be, because it's a very common feature. What's the difference between the two, and why would you want it? Well, I've explained this before, that the reason to get balanced is that having a balanced regulator evens out the breathing. Largely, that's the biggest reason. So whether you're diving shallow water or in deep water, whether you're diving head up looking around, or you got your head buried down in a hole digging for treasure or taking a picture, whether it's the beginning of the dive when your tank is full, possibly 3,000 psi, or it's getting towards the end of the dive where your tank is getting low on pressure, maybe 500, 600, 700, it doesn't matter. Any differing circumstances or situations during the dive, a balanced regulator always breathes the same, smoothly and easily. A regular regulator, or unbalanced if you like, there may be some variations. Now my wife says I'm not very sensitive. I disagree. I think I'm very sensitive. I cry at movies. But I don't really notice much of a difference. Surely if I was diving very deep, I would notice a difference. But generally speaking, even with an unbalanced, I don't notice much of a difference. But there is a difference. Because another reason for having a balance is that the orifice, the holes that the air travels through, are bigger in a balance. You get bigger volumes. If a diver came into my store and he was a big diver, maybe Kevin came in, I wouldn't allow him to buy an unbalanced regulator, because I know that at some point, if he's fighting a current and breathing heavily, he may starve a little bit for air. Hence, there are some good reasons for getting balanced. Let me deal with the difference. We've talked now about why. However, very few divers, in fact, some service technicians, cannot adequately explain the mechanics, the difference between the two. How does a unbalanced or normal regulator differ mechanically from a balanced regulator? I can show you. Very simple. Kevin, zoom in on my simple diagrams. We're dealing with divers here, so the diagrams have to be simple. I made up these 2 diagrams. This top regulator, and this is almost exactly what a regulator looks like inside, actually. This top regulator is a standard regulator, not balanced. And roughly this is how it works. There's a body. This black portion is the body, the chrome brass body that you see and shine up and keep nice and neat on the outside. There's also a diaphragm, a rubber disc like this, which is flexible. That's what these little squigglies mean. It's flexible, so the diaphragm moves in and out. And the diaphragm sits on a shaft like this that goes through into the body and ends in a seat, a flexible seat. That's what the little red line means. That's a rubber or sometimes silicone seat that seals to stop the airflow. Just that simple. So when you breathe, the diaphragm moves back and forth. That moves the shaft back and forth, and that opens or closes the valve. In this particular configuration, this particular design, not balanced, the high pressure air comes in from the tank this way. And you can see that it pushes against the seat, trying to open it to let air through. That's good, right? Sure, that's good. Let's air in. When you breathe, air comes in. When you stop breathing, the diaphragm moves back, airflow stops. When you breathe in, again, the valve moves this way, lets air in, stop breathing, it moves back and shuts off the air. However, it should be pretty obvious that the high pressure air pushing on that seat is actually helping to open it, isn't it? It's pushing it in the direction you want it to go to open. Yeah, so the high pressure air is pushing it open. Of course, that same high pressure air pushing it open makes it a bit hard for the diaphragm to close it. But with a couple of levers and a bit of help, the diaphragm closes the valve when you're exhaling. When you breathe again, the high pressure air pushes on it, helps it open. When your tank is full and there's high pressure air pushing on the valve is at 3,000 psi, it's pushing really hard, 3,000 psi. At the end of the dive, when the tank pressure is low, down to, let's say, 500 psi, now it's pushing with a lot less effort. It's only pushing 500 psi instead of 3,000. Obviously, it feels different. In other words, it's easy to breathe from an unbalanced regulator when the tank is full. It's harder to breathe from an unbalanced regulator when the tank is not full. Is that clear? The high pressure air is helping to open it. Okay, let's look at a balanced regulator. Let's go down to this diagram down here, Kevin. In order to get a balanced regulator, to eliminate those differences, to eliminate the high pressure air helping or not helping, it's really very simple. All they did was they put this shaft that controls the valve right through the high pressure chamber, right through it. Now, the high pressure air comes in from the side. Okay? Diaphragm is the same, the seal is over here, but now the high pressure air comes into this chamber. Now if you take a look at this for a minute, you'll see that if high pressure air comes into this chamber, it's not pushing on the shaft. Either way, it's not trying to close it, it's not trying to open it. It's just sitting around the shaft doing nothing. So when you suck in, the diaphragm moves this way, the valve opens, you get air. When you exhale, the diaphragm moves back, it closes the valve. The high pressure air has nothing to do with it. It doesn't help to open it, it doesn't help to close it. It doesn't matter. So whether the high pressure air is 3,000 or way down to 500 psi, it doesn't make any difference at all. The breathing is consistently even the whole time. Now that's a simple diagram. I'm going to get Kevin to post this diagram so you can all take a look at this later and see if what I'm saying makes sense to you. In an unbalanced regulator, the high pressure air helps or doesn't help the valve to open. In a balanced regulator, that has no effect. And that, of course, is the beauty of a balanced regulator. It breathes the same all the time. Now, one more small thing I'll add before I go, and that is, how do you tell a balanced from an unbalanced regulator? Well, the easiest way is to ask. Your local dive store, if they're showing you different regulators, will certainly know. Or you can go to the manufacturer's website, and it'll tell you. It may not tell you that a regulator is unbalanced, but it will definitely mention that it's balanced. In other words, if you have 4 regulators on the manufacturer's website, and balanced and balanced and balanced, and this one doesn't say it's balanced, it's probably not balanced. Manufacturers never want to say anything negative. They never want to say that the reg doesn't have something, so they won't say it's not balanced. They won't say anything about this balanced. You understand? But there is an easy way that in most cases will help you to tell whether a regulator is balanced or unbalanced. And it's related to this information here, which you now understand. This regulator, take a quick look at it. I'll hold it right here. This regulator, you can see the dust cap, so that is where the tank air comes in. Comes in from the end, like so. You see? Comes in from the end, just like so. You can see that that actually fits the configuration of the diagram. The high pressure air comes in from the end of the regulator. Okay? This regulator is different. Here's the main body, and the high pressure air comes up like this, in from the side. So there is, in most cases, not always, but in most cases, there is a way to look at a regulator and get a good idea whether or not it's balanced or unbalanced. Okay? So there's some very basic information, guys, girls, that might be of interest to you. First of all, some information about why you may or may not want a balanced regulator. And also now you may have a better understanding of how it actually works. Very simple. and also a quick idea on how you might be able to identify them. I hope there's something in there of interest to you. Maybe some of you service technicians out there, you can say, hey, I didn't know that. That would make me feel good if I was able to help you in any way. Okay, that's it. Alec, Peirce, Scuba, Tech Tips from Dan's Dive Shop. Talk to you again soon.